corporate governance in any part of the world aids to protect the capital of an economy, whether national capital in form of monetary or in form of human capital, to ensure that those that are in charge of organization, they do what they're supposed to do, and the organization's owner too, they enjoy the reward of putting capital down. In Nigeria, we will call it Code of Corporate Governance. In the UK, we will call it Corporate Governance Code. And don't forget, the background of Nigeria Code of Corporate Governance is coming from the adoption of Corporate Governance Code in the United Kingdom. So what are we talking about? These documents, I'm going to be practical as much as possible. We are talking about these documents, the UK Corporate Governance Code. Basically, whether in Nigeria or in the UK, this is what we are talking about when we are talking about Corporate Governance Code or Code of Corporate Governance. And it basically can be divided into 5 parts. I'm going to be a bit practical. I don't want us to see CSME as something that is vague subject. No, it's highly realistic in our world. Code of Corporate Governance is divided into 5 parts, and today we are going to actually be dealing with the key provisions. The first part or first section of it deals with the board leadership and company purpose or company's purpose. Board leadership and company purpose. Then the second section of the 5 deals with the division of responsibility. Division of responsibility. Then the third part of it deals with composition, succession, and evaluation. Composition, succession, and evaluation. The fourth part of Code of Corporate Governance deals with audit, risk, and internal control. Audit, risk, and internal control. And the last of them all deals with remuneration, especially the remuneration of the board of directors and the remuneration of management staff and staff members generally. This is GJAMES Associates. We want to go into detail of key provisions in the Code of Corporate Governance. And for those of us that are just joining, my name is Gbenga Olatunji, FCA from GJAMES Associates. Let us look at the key provisions in Code of Corporate Governance. This I'm going to do in no particular order of the 5 sections of it. I'm going to just bring out key provisions. It's important for us to know as corporate citizens that delegation of power exists within a company, and the key power resides in the board of directors based on corporate governance code. Please don't forget, all the powers are usually given to the board of directors. Don't forget that the shareholders are powerful, but they've delegated their power to the board of directors to help them navigate and conduct the organization properly. So the board of director then delegates some of this power to the executive management, and executive management are responsible for day-to-day business operations of the organization. It's time for us to lay this foundation down. Having said that, board are to exercise leadership. Board the board members are to exercise leadership, and also they must be enterprising and be entrepreneurship oriented people to ensure that organization is led productively and profitably. I hope we will remember dividend. Productively and profitably, because shareholders later will request for, or we have their dividend. So it must be profitable. And for it to be profitable, it must be led well and in an entrepreneurship manner. That's a way, the mindset of an entrepreneur. The board members must have it as part of criteria of their selection. Of course, integrity is a must. Judgment, that is ability to decide right, is a must for a board member. Also, a board has oversight and control of the company so as to achieve the continued survival and prosperity of the organization. Don't forget that an organization ordinarily should exist for long foreseeable future time and should outlive the owners. We have organizations that have lived 159 years. I'm just getting to be aware of such an organization. Of course, we have organizations I'm not going to mention that have lived for hundreds of years. We have in the banking institution, we have in the drinks and beverages institution, and in other parts of the world, different organizations that have actually outlived their owners and also outlived many board members. So that is a key provision. That is, the board should exercise leadership, enterprise, integrity, judgment, and serve as an oversight organ of the organization and control the company with the aim of achieving continued survival and prosperity of the organization. Of course, when we're talking about the prosperity, we are talking about the commonwealth of the shareholders, maximization of wealth. So that being the first key provision I'm going to mention. Also, ensuring that the board and its committee acts in the best interest of the company. They have to act in the best interest of the organization, because if they do not do this, there will be agency issue. When we are talking about agency issue, we are talking about conflict of interest between the owners and those that are representing them, which we call the board of directors. Because the board has enormous responsibility, they need to delegate. We've said that earlier. But now delegation goes to the committees of the board. We have remuneration committee, recruitment committee, finance and internal control committee, and so many other committees, risk committees, depending on the industry of the organization. So the committees and the committee members will represent the board and feedback the board on what they observe rather on their duty that they've been assigned to work on. Another key provision is to ensure compliance with the law of the country and also applicable regulation. Compliance to the law and regulation of the company, of the country, and applicable regulation. Depending on industry, there will be different regulations. Also, there will be some common compliance that they need to adhere to, like registrar of the company, they need to file returns. Those ones are common. In Nigeria, we talk about CAMA. Those ones are common to organizations, but on the individual jurisdiction, they need to comply to different regulators. Let's say, for example, in the banking industry, they need to conform and comply to BOVID. In the insurance, they need to conform in Nigeria, for example, to NICOM, and so on and so forth. And the board must ensure this compliance. Another critical provision is that they must consider and approve long-term strategies. They must approve long-term strategies. Of course, many times when we hear long-term, we want to perceive or assume that they are talking about strategy. But like I'd always emphasize, that something is long-term, especially in business world, does not absolutely connote that it is strategy. At the heart of strategy is competition. I won't say more than that for now so that we will not digress. Let's focus on the key provisions, and you can follow the channel and look at the playlist on corporate strategic management and ethics. You will find all those about strategy that have been discussed. So they need to approve, they need to consider and make long-term and short-term strategy for the company. And equally, another key provision is that they must monitor those strategies to ensure their implementation and to ensure that they are working, their workability. So this is key, another key provision in the corporate code of governance or corporate governance code, as the case may be. They need equally to ensure the establishment and implementation of succession plan. See, if you are able to marshal some of these points, it is guaranteed that you will score high marks and you are able to narrate as I am dishing it out to us. So let us take our time to listen to this video and tutorial very well so that we can be strong on this course. So they need to ensure they have the board and every member of the board and management, executive management staff has succession plan. Everyone must have succession plan. That is, if I leave today, the organization, who takes it over? It is important for the survival of the organization. Don't forget, the first key provision I mentioned was to exercise leadership, enterprise integrity, judgment, and to ensure continuous survival and prosperity of the organization. So for the survival of the organization, there must be succession plan. I hope we can key it together, right? So in ensuring that, they must ensure that they appoint or the appointment process and remuneration structure for the board and senior management are very accurate, are good, are pleasant, and could ensure better delivery, retention of key brains, that is, people behind the scene, key staff, key board members are retained as much as possible to ensure that they are able to mentor others and give what they have to the organization in form of succession plan. You know, when somebody leaves quickly, no matter how good they are, the transference of knowledge, of experience is not easy. It's not a day's job. It's continuous. So we must be able to retain the board members for quite a long time and ensure that they transfer their skills, their knowledge, their ability to the best of their ability for others to follow after them. So it's another key provision, that is succession plan. Another one is to be accountable to the organization by being accountable to the shareholders and stakeholders. Now we'll be talking about the annual general meetings, stakeholders meeting, and the like. It is for accountability. Also ensuring there is an audited financial report or accounts reports and audited financial, as the case may be. This is for accountability. This is for transparency. And they must report to the shareholder by calling an official meeting. And corporate code of governance, especially for, of course, is for the listed organization. They must publish that invite, the invitation to annual general meeting. It must be a public knowledge. It must be a public knowledge, not to selected few. Having said that, establishing and maintaining or maintenance of the company's value and standard, this is key. This is germane. This is key. They need to ensure this. Accountability, they need to ensure relationships are maintained, values are created. There must be laid down principles, goals, objectives emanating from the board for other members of staff to follow. So there must be inner workings, that is, we call it core value. Inner layer, outer layer, middle layer. All these things are dealt with equally before. So for those of us that are not part, please go and check it up in the playlist. So corporate governance provision mandates the board to ensure values, principles, standard of the organization, the stance of the organization are maintained, and every staff understands it and they work by it. Another key provision is to enhance accountability. There should be strong internal control systems that are functioning, and the board is to oversee it actually. The board is to oversee the internal audit. So it is part of their primary responsibility to ensure the appointment of key audit staff. They need to be knowledgeable, they have strong background in audits, and must be able to do the job very well and report to the audit committee of the board. Another key provision is to establish the company's risk management framework, and that is not good enough. They need to monitor it effectively. So monitoring of risk management framework and establishment of risk management framework is a key responsibility of the board by the corporate governance code. All these ones we are treating most likely will save somebody in the next exams concerning risk management, corporate governance, and the like. So let's take our time to, if possible, replay and understand what we are talking about. Another important key provision is oversight on information technology governance. Information technology governance. Now everything we do is online, so there must be a member of the board that's highly skilled in infotech to report back or head the committee on infotech, because it's a key provision that they need to ensure they deliver to the shareholder. Also, they need to have a formal schedule of matters specifically that are reserved for the board and matters that are delegated to board committees and management. It is a strategic position to be member of the board, and Code of Corporate Governance established it that all these documents must exist. They are formal documents, they are scheduled that's to enhance speed in decision making. Don't forget, we spoke about board members having judgment, that is ability to decide correctly. So they need to have what decisions are exclusive to the board, what are the ones that could be delegated to board committees, and what are those that executive management staff can offer to the organization. Another key provision I'm going to touch on is overseeing the effectiveness and adequacy of internal control system. I want to believe that this buttresses what before, so I'll move on because I don't want to waste anybody's time, neither my own. Overseeing the company's communication is important, and dissemination of information. Now we are not talking about infotech. Of course, information technology is going to ride on information technology, but we are talking now about communication management, public relation. There should be public relation officer. There should be people that understand what we need to tell the world and how we need to tell it to the world. So it's a critical part of governance, so that wrong information or correct information sent out wrongly or at the wrong time could bring any organization down. So it is critical for the survival of the organization that the board functions in this key ability and capability. Also, performing the appraisal of the board members and senior executives. We are now talking about performance measurement. We're talking about performance and ability to measure it. So it is important that we monitor what we are doing and how far we had gone concerning our set goals, objectives, journeys ahead of the organization. And this is another key provision. Another one I'm going to mention before, last but not the least, before we wrap everything up, I implore you to like this video, subscribe to GJAMES Associate channel. I want to believe you are the received value in form of knowledge, in form of enhancing your student life. If you are listening to me as a student writing ICAEW, or you are writing ICAN or any other form of professional accountancy bodies examination, share it and subscribe, and tell a friend to tell a friend. Comment if there are any aspects you want us to talk about in your syllabus, and you will be glad that we are going to pick it up from there. My name is Gbenga Olatunji FC for those that are just joining us and new on this platform. Let us move on. So the board's key provision, another key provision that they need to work on, is to ensure the integrity of the annual report. No color coding, no color shading, no unrealistic enhancement of the performance of the organization. They should just call a spade to the world and to the shareholders. So ensuring the integrity of the annual reports and accounts and all material information provided to regulators and to stakeholders. Stakeholders are numerous and regulators are equally numerous depending on the industry we are in, especially the shareholders. I want to believe you agree they are part of the stakeholders. The last but not the least is to ensure that management systems are in place. And they are not just in place, the management systems must be in place to identify and to manage environmental, social risk, political risk and impacts, technological risk, and every form of risk exposure that the organization may have. So risk management is a key function because any risk can bring an organization down. Why then is it that the board are having us are saddled with these key provisions and responsibility in the corporate governance code or code of corporate governance? It is because the board members are majority of the time not the shareholders, the founders of the organization. So there is a separation between the board and the ownership. And the owners oftentimes will not be present on daily basis to monitor the affair of the organization. So therefore, when I started that the corporate governance code is to ensure capital is protected, whether monetary capital, whether capital, intellectual property or intellectual capital, human capital, any form of capital is protected. We want to ensure that capital is protected. Therefore, we must have a code or series of codes that govern the corporate, that is corporate organization. And this affects basically the listed entities, the public limited or public liability companies or organizations. So let us know why code of corporate governance affects directly the board and the power resides to govern the organization in the board of directors, and that the board of directors are agents of the real owners, who are the people we call the shareholders. Also that the shareholders are part and key part of the stakeholders of the organization, but the stakeholders are numerous, and institutions that have interest in the organization, which we call stake, they are equally numerous. This is just to recap basic breakdown of what we've discussed. So these are key provisions from the 5 aspects of the corporate code. And like I said, the corporate code of governance is broken down into 5 parts: board leadership and the company purpose, division of responsibilities, composition, succession and evaluation, audit, risk and internal control, and last but not the least, the remuneration. From GJAMES Associate Gbenga Olatunji FCA, we are value to life. We are value to your businesses. You can be sure next time we meet and you see our upload, you will have subscribed by that time, and also you will have value for the next video.